What's up, homeschoolers? In this episode, I will be chatting with veteran unschooling mom Tira Hunter. Unschooling is a form of homeschooling that in the past has been misunderstood. I've heard it said that unschooling is unparenting. In this episode, we are shattering that misconception and showing how unschooling may actually be the future of education, in that it gives kids the freedom to explore topics that interest them and empowers them to develop their passions. Tyra will share how unschooling empowered her daughter Zoe, now a homeschool graduate, to become a talented artist and creative who became a commissioned artist at 13 years old. Stay tuned. Today, I am going to be speaking with my fellow homeschool mom, Tyra Hunter. And today we're going to be talking about unschooling. And she is a passionate homeschooling mom who has homeschooled her daughter for 8 years. Her daughter recently graduated. Her daughter is an artist. They were game schooling unschoolers. She has been inspired by her daughter's success as an unschooler, and she shares, and Tyra shares how to embrace self directed learning, game schooling, and how to de-school with other interested parents. So, welcome, Tyra. I am so glad to talk to you. We really have good chemistry. I met Tyra on the Clubhouse app, and she has just been a wealth of knowledge about unschooling and deschooling and game schooling. And so I wanted to make sure that I got a chance to talk to her because I think she has a lot that she can share. So,
Thank you,
Tyra,
Kendra.
thank you. Okay. So, first of all, let's start with a definition of what unschooling is because some people may not distinguish between homeschooling and unschooling.
Well, I when people ask me about how to define unschooling, I try to define it on terms that they could maybe see. I normally just say unschooling is when your child is the curriculum.
That's a good
It's like
definition.
it's yeah. I mean that's it's what your child wants to learn. So it's like self-directed learning. I This is not quote for quote, but I have read, or I can't remember who said it. They said if your child finds something that brings them joy, that's good. Now step out of the way and let them do it every day, all day. That's exactly what I had did with my daughter Zoe for 5 years until she graduated from the homeschool program. My daughter was free to kind of immerse herself into her passions, which is art and everything creative. And she got to define different subjects. Um, like if you have math, science, social studies, history, geography, science. Here in the state of Florida, we have to be evaluated, or you can take a test, or you can go under an umbrella. With an umbrella school, you all you have to do is hand in attendance. But with evaluations, you are evaluated by a teacher. So when I first started homeschooling, I picked evaluation because my daughter's old public school teacher was going to be her evaluator. So she said, well, I'll do it when I told her the different options that I had. Very, very helpful. My daughter's public school was very, very helpful into for me to go into homeschooling. They actually have a liaison at their school for homeschooling.
Hmm.
And so they helped me to get started. They told me the different um, people that I can talk to and everything. And so I started off being a traditional homeschooler where I kind of pattern the day at a certain time, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, you start and you have this. I had a schedule and, I had a planner. Oh my goodness. On the weekends, my planner would just be filled, you know,
Yeah.
we did, field trip, everything was planned out. Well, my daughter, and I told you this, I blame my husband. He is an artist and he became her art teacher because she was at home and he was home. Normally, when he was home, she would be at school, and then when he go to work, she wouldn't be there. So he had all this time with her, and he just started teaching her about art, about lines and colors and different things like that. And she just developed her own style because now all of a sudden she used a part of her brain that she didn't hadn't used before, and it was the creative side. And I'm telling you, Kendra, that's what started it. It was like, once she found art and she found being creative was something that was she wanted to be, it was like fighting with her to, well, we have to do English now, or we have to do Saxon math.
Yes.
Saxon was our thing. We have to
Mhm.
do Saxon, which I just end up, we have to do Saxon. So it was like, no, I don't, she was like, oh, I don't really want to. And because I started homeschooling her when she was in the fifth grade. She went to public school all the way to the fourth grade. And in fifth grade on, until she graduated out of the homeschool program. But she was just like struggling. We both were struggling. My child is very, very smart book wise. It's just that she didn't really care. It was, oh, art was more important than grades. Oh, so what if I get a C, or, but I know she was capable of getting A's.
Mhm.
When they had testing here in Florida, she got all fives. She tested the highest. She's very smart, but just didn't care. It
Mhm.
wasn't that important to her. It was important to me.
Mhm.
So those first 2.5 years of homeschooling, I wouldn't say all of it was miserable. We did grow closer, but we just that I wanted her to be more scholarly like she was in school versus her wanting to be more creative.
Okay.
So yeah, so that don't mesh. Not with her. It could with another child maybe, but her, no, that wasn't going to happen. It was either or for her. Literally, it
Mhm.
was school is not that important. Being a creative is more important than school. So that's when I was like, something has to work because I was miserable. She was miserable, very miserable, because all she wanted to do was draw and sketch and paint. And I was like, well, you can't do that, only like an hour or two. And she was like, but mom, I really want to. She wanted hours and hours to do. And I was like, no, because you're going to go to college. Just now, she's in fifth grade, fifth and sixth grade, and seventh grade. Now you have to do this because you're going to go to college and all this. And it was too stressful for her because I don't know. It was stressful for me because I wanted her to reach that potential that I saw her as,
Mhm.
reaching that potential of being this scholarly person. But if I would ask her what she wanted to be, she'd be like, I don't know. But when it came to art, she was like, oh, I'm going to be this world known painter, and I'm going to be an illustrator, and I'm going to go to this country, and I'm going to be a chef, and I'm going to go to the countries, and I'm going to paint what I see and cook all the food. She would just talk about all these amazing creative things. But if I was to ask her, well, what kind of profession? She was like, well, I don't know.
So you discovered that she was passionate and she could visualize her future in art as well. And
At a
that's
very young age.
a very young age. So how do
Very
you as a parent facilitate her getting deeper into art?
young. That is a very good question because I became a master facilitator. Um, in fact, I became a facilitator that she had to slow me down. She was like, Mom, a lot of times she pulls me to the side. She's like, Mom, we need to talk. Just because I say I'm interested in something doesn't mean that it's going to become a passion. I had to learn
Hmm.
that
Okay.
because I went right out, got everything for that. And she was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Why did you do that? So eventually I had to calm that part down of, oh, you're interested in this. And because you do want your child to find their passions and to be happy while they're doing it. And for me to be a big part of that, of helping her to find her passion, was just amazing. But I took the wrong approach. It was she needed to tell me what she
You
was
had to give
passionate
her the
about.
space to discuss.
Right. And I
Okay.
didn't do that. I was just like, got it, do it, do it, do it. So, so I had all these things. Have you ever heard of strewing?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Strewing is something that I did in the deschooling period.
Okay.
This is how I became a master facilitator. For those that don't know what deschooling is a process that to me, you have to go through in order to change from one learning style to the next. Like if
Mhm.
you're leaving public school to go to homeschooling, you have to have a deschooling period.
Mhm. Where you
I didn't do
break out
that.
of that mindset.
Right. I didn't do that, Kendra. I went right from public school straight to homeschool, and that didn't work because I
Mhm.
brought that mindset straight home. So I had to deschool from traditional homeschool to unschooling. So within that period of time, which deschooling truly never ends, it is a constant thing.
Continuous. Mhm.
Yes, continuous, exactly. So within that period, when I first started, I observed my child. I never asked my child, what is it that you find interesting? What do you want to learn? Never asked her that. That boggles my mind that I never asked her, what do you want to learn? And so she told me all the things that she found interesting. So I watched her naturally gravitate to things she'd want to learn. And I would
Mhm.
write it down. I wrote
Okay.
it down. So, say she was interested in plants, so I would look on Amazon. Me and Amazon have a very good relationship.
As do
I
we all.
I,
Mhm.
I got on Amazon and I found little kits on how to grow plants.
Okay.
So saying she was interested in butterflies, I got that one kit where it started off as a cocoon and you watch
Mhm.
it grow and it blossom. I mean, it grew out and there was a butterfly and we let it free. She loved that,
Okay.
So I just watched her and she told me the different things that she found interesting. So strewing, I would get things that I think she would might find interesting by my observations, and I would just leave them out on the table.
Oh, okay.
Wouldn't tell her to try it, wouldn't make her. If she picked it up, if she liked doing it, she did it. If she didn't do it, I had to learn not to get my feelings hurt. But if she didn't do it, that's on me.
Something I think that's something that is a totally different concept from public school where everything is mandated in terms of this child at this grade is supposed to learn X,
Hmm.
Y, and Z and be able to be proficient to this level, versus the child being able to explore, and then you as a parent stepping back, um, and just observing. And if they like it, if they take interest in it, fine. If they don't, you move on. So that is something that is unique to unschooling
Hmm.
and a break away from the standardized one size fits all path
Hmm.
of public
Hmm.
school.
Exactly. Absolutely. But it took me a while to get there, Kendra. It didn't happen overnight.
Hmm.
That deschooling, when I first started, was the hardest thing I've ever done in life. I'm not playing with you.
Hmm.
Changing your mind when that's all you know is the hardest thing to do. That's all I knew was public school, Catholic school, um, college. That's all I knew. You have a set time to learn at this many hours of the day.
Hmm.
You took tests. You did, that was all I knew.
And
So
that's what's drilled into us too.
yes,
Hmm.
yes. So and so for me to go from I was an A++ student, I loved school, and for me to go from that type of way of thinking to having my daughter be in control of what she learned, girl, I had to have so many people try to pull me off the ledge. I don't know what to tell you. It was very, very good for me to have people that I could call that were already seasoned unschoolers,
Mhm.
because in asking them questions or following them on Facebook or Instagram or calling them all the time, because it helped me to, you're doing okay. And that's all we need, is that reassurance that whether we're regular home, traditional homeschoolers or eclectic or whatever, sometimes you need that reassurance that you're doing what's right for your child, even though you know what's right for your child. Sometimes what society says gets to
Mhm.
you,
Yes, it
you know.
does. Yeah, because we constantly, public school is kind of the center of our society and that one way of learning and one way of measuring success. And so there's
Mhm.
this anxiety that somehow if
Mhm.
our kids don't reach this milestone at this time, and if they don't do X, Y, and Z based on society's views, then you're failing as a parent, and
Right.
homeschooling or unschooling doesn't work.
Right.
And so
Right.
that leads me to my next question. I have two questions. I guess the first one that I will say it will ask, and this is me being a devil's advocate, right? Because I don't believe this. But I want to address this statement that I have heard homeschoolers make about unschoolers, that
Mhm.
unschooling is just unparenting. I want
Mhm.
you to explain why, on top of that, it's offensive, but I want you to explain why that's simply not true.
Well, for one thing, what you don't know much about, you tend to fear, or you tend to pick at, or you tend to make smaller than what it is, because you've never done it before and you're just from the outside looking in.
Mhm.
So I take that when people have said that, I just look at them like, whatever, this is my child and this is what works for us. But that is completely not true. Well, and my child, and you've known the journey we've been on from me telling you about
Mhm.
what my daughter does now, and you have seen what she does.
Mhm. We gonna talk about it.
But why people may think that is because, like I said, it's so different.
Mhm.
People, when asked, would you let your child be in control of their day as far as what they learn or what they want to do? 9 times out of 10, the parents have told me, no, I don't trust them to do I don't trust them to learn or do what I think they need to do or what they should do.
Mhm.
But I realized with my child that I didn't trust her. So when I gave her that opportunity to learn what she wanted to learn on her own, that showed her that I trusted her to get the knowledge and what she needed to be successful. And once I trusted her, because that's not easy either. And
Mhm.
we have to ask, why don't we trust our children? Why?
Some of it is probably because we don't respect our children as people, as individuals, I would think.
I agree. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's true. So when people say that it is not parenting, it is the opposite, because I am very much in my child's life. Um, I because I am with my child, we learn together. Whatever she learns, I learn. Whatever something new she wants to get into, I want to get into it too, because it's like, this is fun. Kendra, I had so much fun being an unschooler mom.
Mhm.
I What my husband was like, I wish I could have been unschooled. I wish I could have been unschooled too. So had so much fun learning what she wanted to learn in her way. I was like, this is so cool. And it made me even more creative, because I don't think I'm that much of a creative person, just
Mhm.
regular. But I got creative. I had to get creative in order for me to meet my daughter to where she was as a
Mhm.
creative person. Her creativity is just, I can't, there's not, I would never reach her creativity level. But
Mhm.
I had to get more creative in, instead of using curriculum, I had to find other ways that she could learn something, because of what I chose in my state to be evaluated, I had to show them something. So
Mhm.
what I did is I took pictures of everything Zoe did, everything she wanted to learn, if she chose a book, I take a picture of that book. I mean, because I that's what I did when it came time for me to be evaluated. I used Google Slides.
Okay.
So I would put pictures to every slide and I would talk about what she learned, why I chose this or why
Mhm.
she chose it, or why we chose it together,
Yes.
you know. So yeah, I don't understand when people say it's not parenting. I think what it is that they look at parents, regardless if they're unschoolers or homeschoolers or whatever,
Mhm.
that are bad parents
Mhm.
that don't take care of their children. That has nothing to do with unschooling.
Well, and plus, I've heard you in just sitting down here
Mm,
talk about how you had to observe her interests,
mm-hmm,
which means that you
mm-hmm,
are with her and that you're engaged with her. You
mm-hmm.
had to do your own research to try to meet her needs, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm,
And then you had to kind of walk with her as she's going to take off, of course, because that's her passion, but you
mm-hmm.
have to walk with her as a parent in order to help her to take off, right?
Well,
Because
exactly. In a yes, in those words, exactly. I it's like my husband when my husband, because it's good that you said that, because when my husband was teaching her about art, she came to him with a picture that
mhm,
he didn't think she drew. He was like, well, who drew this? She said, I did. He was like, I can't be your teacher anymore. I can only be your guide. So that's
wow,
what I was like. I took a page out of his book. That was what I had to become, was just a facilitator, but also a guide.
because
Like if
she got to a place, right, that she had surpassed. Is that what he meant? That she had surpassed his.
she
Oh
had got
wow.
to a place where what he was teaching her, she took that and made it her own. And my husband is a very free thinking, because he's an artist, creative as well, very creative. And he was like, well, I'll just be your guide. If you have any questions, you need to ask me how to do this or how to do that, I'll help you. He said, but you have your own style. And he respected her in that. Me on the other hand, well, this was before I unschooled. Me on the other hand was like, well, that's all and good, but she can't do that every day, all day long, whatever. But he was already there when we started homeschooling. I was not. He
Mhm.
said, because she has her own way, it is not. He said, I cannot tell her how to do something that she has developed on her own.
Wow.
So, and I should have took that and not put us through 2.5 years of of stress and yelling and crying. So then that's the way our unschool journey has been. What she chooses to learn, she goes with it. And there's something that's called like a rabbit hole. Have you ever heard of rabbit holes?
Mhm. Like
Rabbit
Alice in
tracks and stuff?
Wonderland land?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, say, I'll give you a perfect example of a rabbit hole. My daughter, this was during our deschooling period when we first started, she didn't even realize what we were doing.
Mhm.
I just woke up one morning and said, you can learn whatever you want to learn. And I didn't give it a name. She didn't know that yet.
Mhm.
So, and I was, kind of like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What am I doing? One of her chores is washing dishes. And, so she would use a dishwashing machine, with no problem. We didn't have any more soap. And she's like, well, mom, the next time we go to the store, I need you, could you get some dishwasher liquid? I was like, oh, sure. I kept forgetting. She got tired of doing the dishes by hand. So I heard the washing machine, the dishwashing machine go on. I was like, wait a minute, how are you washing dishes? She was like, Mom, I've been washing dishes through this way. You just haven't paid attention. And I was like, well, I can't remember if I don't know why that day I remembered hearing the dishwashing machine go on. And I
Mhm.
was like, are you trying to make us sick? You can't, there's no way, you just can't rush water on it. She was like, oh, Mom, please. She said, I looked up on my own
Mhm.
how to make dishwasher liquid with what you have at home. She said, because I
Hmm.
got tired of you telling me you forgot. That child did all kind of research, So that research led her to tell me about what dishwashing liquids to use and why not. And I said, "Well, what did you make the soap out of?" She told me all these different these natural things that we had right here in the house. She broke it down, the chemicals of what and why, and I was just like, me, my husband and I had our mouths wide open, and I was like, "That is unschooling."
Mhm.
Without me telling her, prompting her, she learned science. And I told
Yeah.
her that. I said, Zoe, that's science. And she's not a science person. She was like, huh, it was, wasn't it? Even she realized that, just by doing things regular like life, I can
Mhm.
learn different things. And so that was, I told my husband that at that point, I was like, yeah, this unschooling, it's going to work because, you know, the fact that she learned about science
Mhm.
without me having to tell her or prompt her to do anything. She learned that on her own. That's
Mhm.
knowledge that she learned that she will keep in her head because a lot of times I would teach her things and it would just go through one ear and out the other
Mhm.
because it wasn't even interesting. I was trying to teach her Spanish for 2 years, Kendra. She learned nothing. She knows how to count. That's
Mhm.
it. Because she really didn't want to learn Spanish. She
Mhm.
took French at a co-op from a person who was Lebanese and French was their first language or second language or something like that. And she taught them. I thought she was just gonna love French, and they even had a play about doing French and all that. Can't remember nothing. And I was like, she said, because mother, I told you I don't want to learn anything but Japanese. So I was like, you know what? Learn Japanese. I don't care.
Mhm.
And that child speaks Japanese
Okay.
because she taught her. She's not fluent in it, but she knows a
Right.
lot and she can hear it and know what they're talking about.
Mhm.
She wanted to learn it, therefore she's going to remember it. She'll
Mhm.
take it in because it's something she really wants to learn, not what I think she wanted to learn. She could care less and she didn't even remember it and she just took it just to please me. But if she's doing something that pleases herself and she sees value to it, she'll remember it forever.
It's kind of related, but I want to switch gears now in terms of because Zoe just graduated this year,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
I want you to go back though a little bit, and I want you to just share because I heard you share this on Clubhouse, and I was just blown away myself
Hmm.
hearing some of the experiences that Zoe has had or pursued just because like she was interested in it.
Hmm.
Different aspects or areas of art and
Hmm.
how you went about finding those opportunities for her. If you could share a little bit about that.
I went to a time where I didn't allow her to do any art unless it was like an hour. But when I became more in tune to what she wanted to do, she would paint and draw for hours, Kendra. She has maybe 20 books by now, all filled with characters that she's drawn over the years,
Wow.
all having different um outfits, and it's just, I mean, she drew people who were animals and then animals that were people, and she come up with stories. I mean, her imagination, her creativity is amazing. So different things that people would learn about the things that she has done just bought opportunities that she wasn't even, looking for. It just came to her. Her first one was, we were at a mall, and inside of this mall, it was kind of like an open type of mall. And we
Mhm.
walked into this place and it had all these different paintings up. And my child loves steampunk. Do you know what steampunk is?
I've heard of it, but I'm not quite sure.
It's kind of like Victorian slash, new age,
Mhm.
like mod. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but she was really into steampunk, and it just so happens that it was a steampunk exhibit, and it was high schoolers from around the area, and they had either drawn something or painted something or made little steampunk, because it's about steam and machines and stuff like that. And Zoe, because I have told her that she was the best artist ever. It just so happens that the art teacher that was doing this exhibit was there.
Mhm.
And we walked up to her, and Zoe was like, I can paint. And she's like 12. She's like, I can paint. And the woman was like, really? She's like, yeah, I'm a homeschooler and I love steampunk. She was like, can I paint a picture and you put it up? And she looked at me because we didn't know this woman. She was a public school art teacher. We didn't. It's always just like, I can do this too. And she was the youngest one and the only homeschooler. She said, if you bring me back a painting, and she gave me her number and everything, she was like, I sure will put it up. And this is the first time Zoe heard this. She said, make sure that painting looks like you. That is important. Zoe never thought of that because she was just drawing characters that didn't maybe look like her. They're more anime or whatever. But this is the first artist that told her that she was 12. She was like, if you're going to make a painting, you always put yourself in it. She's never heard that.
Mm.
So she went back and she painted a steampunk character, but she painted a black steampunk girl.
Mm.
And it's hanging right up here. You can't see it though. She won't she won't sell it. Somebody's asked her if they would sell. She won't sell it. No, she said that is my first painting ever. So she took it back and the woman put it up. And I had all my family go and friends go look at in the exhibit that she put up her painting. That was the first painting that she did that was hung up in an exhibit. And she was like, oh, that is so cool. You know, she was like 12, 11, 12. I posted it on Facebook and a homeschool mom was like, if you paint me a steampunk girl, I'll pay you for it.
Mhm.
So it was like, what?
Okay.
Somebody's gonna pay me to paint? And she said, okay. So that was her first commission.
Oh
And that just
wow.
happened. And then it
Mhm.
just, every time I would show up a painting, so then she became to where um, that's all she did commissions for like 2 years. So
Okay.
when she was 14, going on 15, she was like, Mom, I just really want to paint for myself. I mean, she did so many commissions.
Mhm.
And she was like, I really, really want to paint for myself. And I was like, well, what do you mean? She's like, I don't want to paint just commissions. I want to paint the things I see in my mind.
Hmm.
And I was like, huh, okay. So I bought these huge canvases, like 45 by 30. I mean, they're huge. 36 by 45. They make, when you're standing, they come up to here. They're
Okay.
huge.
Yeah.
40, yeah. And so I was like, well, okay, because actually one of those was supposed to be for a commission. I was like, well, let me tell your commission that you're not doing it. So Zoe said, okay, Kendra, this is not made up. She painted 3 women, like 4 days, and it's huge. I just cried and cried because they were breathtaking. They were beautiful because this was her. This was what came out of her, and nobody else told her to paint it for them or anything. This came out of her. So there was this museum that we love. It was called the Bronze Kingdom. And we
Mhm.
would go there all the time. They knew about Zoe. We go to all their programs they had. And they just kind of adopted Zoe as their little, artist or whatever. So I just happened to have those pictures that she painted on my phone.
Mhm.
And I talked to one of the people that worked there. I said, look at these paintings that Zoe did on her own. She was like, where are these paintings? I said, oh, they're at home. She said, go get them. And I was like, okay. So we had to go kind of cross town, came back. She took the pictures. She showed them to the owner. Now, this man travels all around the world, especially
Mhm.
to Africa to get his art and different things. And other people that are local and from all around the country
Mhm.
have their paintings in this museum. They like have to wait until, they have to wait. Like there's like 6 or 7 people ahead of Zoe that were waiting, established older artists.
Uh-huh.
So he took the paintings. He was like, these are beautiful. He said, I'm not going to hang them up right now. I'm going to I'm going to show them in our meeting when I have these other curators that are there and see what they say about them. Everybody loved them. And they said, well, who's the artist? He said, it's the little girl. He called her a little girl. He's only 14 and a half. He said, it's the little girl that comes in here all the time because there was a huge painting that Zoe would just come and just stare at. And she'd get very inspired by all the art around her, the sculpting and the bronze work and the pots, and they hung up her paintings.
Wow.
She didn't have to wait, nothing. And so there happened to be, now these stuff, that's an opportunity. Just so happened we went to where this very known artist here locally had his opening of his paintings, and he had a big show. He had like reggae music and everything. We were invited to it. He was showing us around all his paintings and talking about them. And Zoe was just fascinated by him. And when there he was standing there talking, she went up to him. She said, "Why don't you come and see my paintings?" So another opportunity came. So he went and saw her paintings. He was like, "You did this?" She said, "Yeah." He's like, "I want to, I want to be your mentor." So I
Wow.
would take. So this is another way that my daughter learns.
Mhm.
She learns through internship and people being her mentors. She
Mhm.
takes what they have and they teach her a technique, and then she goes and uses it on her own. So
Okay.
he mentored her. He is this amazing abstract artist, just amazing. So Zoe would go to different, would be invited to different things, and she would get her name out there. So she's been in all kind of exhibits, and she also taught classes in our co-op. And Zoe was, I think when she was 15, at 15, she could volunteer at the library. That child could honestly just work at a library. She loves it.
Mhm.
She when she was 15, she became a volunteer. They found out about, well, they have always known about how Zoe is an artist, but for our co-ops geography history um fair, Zoe decided to use this huge canvas, and she drew about 68, 70 different black women from the 1700s till now, and she knew all about them.
Wow.
And so she stood there, and um my daughter doesn't like to speak in public, but when it comes to art, she does. It's just
She's very
confident,
articulate, right?
very, very. So she went home and she painted it. The library, she told somebody at the library what she had done. They said, "Oh, do you have a picture of it?" And I showed them a picture, and they were like, "We'd like to put it up in the library." So
Wow.
Zoe was like, "Oh, okay, but I've been wanting to do um some watercolor, because she does acrylic and she does watercolor as well." She did about 40 women in watercolor of the world, back in AD to B, from BC, and all that, BC to AD. And she had 40 different women around the world, not just black women. So they put that up in the library, and they did a program around her. So she stood in the
Wow.
front of the library. When people would come in, they bought juice, and they said it's like you would sit like you're at a museum. You just sit and have cookies and juice. And so she stood there and she talked about all of the women,
Mhm.
and the person who evaluated her happened to be there. They wanted to see. And she said Zoe passed high school. She was only
Right.
14. She said Zoe
Mhm.
passed high school. I was like, "What do you mean?" She said, "What your daughter just told me, just was telling people, is history from the beginning to now. That covers all of history of you don't have to do history for another 4 years if you don't want to." She had all
Well,
this information.
imagine if you had stayed just homeschooling and limiting her.
Zoe has been a artist in residence, the first artist in residence for an online school,
Okay.
where she was in charge of teaching classes and all things creative.
Mhm.
And so that was her first job. That she actually got paid to do that job.
Mhm.
And I mean, so that's just, so then the library, she started teaching classes at the library to grown-ups and kids. So I mean, I was like, "Oh, Zoe, you can go to school to be an art teacher." She was like, "No, that's okay. I don't want." Like, I don't want to. But those are just the opportunity. I haven't even talked about her teaching herself to be a digital artist and the opportunity that came with that. It just once Zoe had the freedom to immerse herself into her passions,
Hmm.
all of these things started opening up.
So I want to fast forward now to,
Okay.
so she is now
Okay.
a graduate. And
Yes.
okay, so she has unschooled and she is graduated this year. And so
Yes.
where is she at this point with her artwork and
Okay.
whatnot?
Okay. Well, on a whole nother level, Zoe, well, her business is Art by Zoe.
Okay.
She's Art by Zoe on Instagram.
Okay.
And on Facebook, she's Zoe the Creative.
And we'll definitely put that information
Yeah.
in the
As you can
description.
see, I have this is a painting of that she did, and it's on clothes.
Okay. That's awesome.
So Zoe can design logos. Zoe designs logos for clothes.
Okay.
She is a published illustrator. She has had two books out. One's called Buzz Leaves the Family of Colors, and the other one is called Black Girl with the Afro.
Okay.
And then she's will have another book coming out. Um, Skyhorse is the publishing company. That will be next year. That will be international.
Okay. Wow.
And that person that is the author of that book found her on Instagram. Had been looking all kind for, and she saw something that Zoe had did, and she was like, "I want that for my book."
Mhm.
So that opportunity has led to Zoe is booked up until November for books.
Okay.
And so Zoe has been in Black Expos.
Mhm.
Um, um, so that's what she does now that she is dwindling down on doing books and doing paintings as far as commission and other, like she does book covers.
Mhm.
She does slogans for people. She's dwindling down, and she even has sewn a dress for somebody, because that's another creative part of side of her, is that she's a seamstress as well
Okay.
and a costume designer. And so Zoe wants to finish her graphic novel that she is creating. She's on her third chapter. And she also has a children's clothing line that she wants to work on, girls' dresses. That they're beautiful. These are my daughter's sketches, clothing. So my daughter is pretty busy, and
Yeah,
all
it
this is on
sounds
her
like it.
own. All of this
Yes.
is on her own. You know, she did, as far as math had went when she was in the homeschool program, she did pre-algebra on her own. Took about
Mhm.
2 years for her to get through this certain note workbook that she picked. And I told her, I said, well, would you like, do you want to do algebra to move on? And she was like, yeah, I'll try it. So she took algebra for about a semester or half a year. And she was like, well, I don't mind. She said, but my real life is happening. I have to do some painting. So that's how she that's what she did with when it came to school. School
Mhm.
was something she did because she knew she had to comply with the state. But her real life, her real meaning in life was her art. As she got older, she said, well, you know what? I'm getting older and I want to learn more about business. She said, so I think I want to do business math. So I found how to budget. So we found workbooks on Amazon about budgeting, about running, how to run your own business, about
Mhm.
bank accounts, about
Mhm.
yeah, and we also found games that went along with it.
Okay.
So she's helping her. So she's learning how to what to do when you have a business, but she's
Mhm.
also learning and having fun. She'll remember that more.
Right.
Also,
Well, and she's an entrepreneur.
right. And she was an intern for someone that had their own studio. And
Okay.
she interned for them, and she saw how she had to pay insurance and talk to different people, because that's a whole nother side of art that she had no idea, that you have to pay insurance. You have to get, you know, your lights and different things like that. So she saw how to run a studio. So now she's finishing up her book, If COVID hadn't happened, I think my daughter would not be here where we are. She'd be in another country.
Okay.
Because her goal is to travel Europe and Japan.
Well, you know what? After hearing all that she has accomplished, I believe you, and I believe she's gonna get there as soon as things kind of ease up too.
Yeah,
So that
well,
is
that's a plan of hers. But I'd like her to stay close with me. But I would never do that. She has a major goal. Her major goal is to live in Europe and paint
okay.
and cook. So
Those are
I
some
mean,
lofty goals there, and she can
it's
do
but
it.
she can do them.
Yeah,
She can
she
do 'em.
can do them.
When she sets her goals. No matter how far out she thinks that she can do them, she
Mhm.
does them. She's
Mhm.
a Her goal was to be a well-known artist, and she is in her own right.
Mhm.
She set a goal to be an illustrator, and she is an illustrator. She has set a goal to have her comic book published, and she almost done with it, and she'll find a way to publish it. She set a goal to be a designer of children's clothing or just of clothing, and she will do it. So I believe that Zoe is going to be a lifelong learner
Mhm.
because she will always set goals. And if that goal has in it something that she doesn't know about, she will learn it.
For a parent, a lot of parents fear unschooling because they're like, well, what if my child has a change of heart and wants to go to college? Um, but we've unschooled and there are maybe things that they didn't get or whatnot. How do you approach that?
Okay, first off, unschoolers go to college.
Yes, they do.
They are brilliant. I mean, all kids are brilliant, of course, in their in their own way, but unschoolers go to college. I know a lot of unschoolers that have went to college at a young age, if that's what they choose to do, and
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten into many different colleges.
Mm-hmm.
Homeschoolers are sought out. Period. Homeschoolers in general are
Mm-hmm.
sought out from colleges because they are very self motivated. At
Mm-hmm.
least the homeschoolers and the unschoolers that I know. My daughter told me, and I've told you this at 13, I think, because she got tired of me. Oh, look at this art school, or oh, if you do. She sat me down, like I always say. She sits me down, and she told me I don't want to go to college. She said
Mm-hmm.
I am in my own college.
Mm-hmm.
I get to learn what I want to learn at any time and how I want to learn it. And I was like, okay, okay. Okay. And I was like, well, I mean, okay, if that's the case, then, if you're going to be an artist, then you be an artist,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And she was like, challenge accepted. And she became this massive artist. And so when I get asked that question by people, when they ask me, well, what if she changes her mind and wants to go to college? I'm like, well, if that is the case, then guess what she's going to do?
Mm-hmm.
She is going to have to do what she needs to do to get into that college. So my child, they're like, oh, well, what about algebra? And she, Zoe has had some algebra.
Mm-hmm.
She found that she didn't like algebra and she saw no value to it. But if she needed to get it to go to that college,
Mm-hmm.
then she would have to learn that algebra, which I doubt because my child just does not like school. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't like to be somewhere and having to sit and learn from somebody else. I had to learn that. It
Mm-hmm.
would have saved me all kind of heartache and grief the first couple of years that we were doing homeschooling. But I have no worry that if my child wants to go to college, she can. I'm having professional make transcripts for her if she ever
Mm-hmm.
wants to use them, which I doubt because she is flat out said, "I don't like school." I mean, and people have to also realize everybody is not so gung ho about college.
Yes.
And that's just a
Yes.
given. I don't know what I don't know
Yes.
what to tell people.
And that is something that needs to be addressed because
Yes.
nowadays you have all these kids going into debt with degrees they cannot use. There's a shortage in the manufacturing industry and certain other industries because everybody was pushed to go to college. But you're right. And accepting that everybody is not meant to go to college or military opens it up because, well, what else can they do? And there's a lot out there, but a lot of times we don't know what's possible because it's been drilled into us, go to college or go to the military or go this. It's very limited though. So that's a great answer to that question. I specifically wanted to speak to you today about unschooling because I also believe that it is the future of education.
Hmm.
I believe that as people come out of the public school mindset, because for so many kids, especially minority kids, in a lot of instances, it's not working. Is public school is not working for them. Not to say that it doesn't work for some,
Hmm.
but the standardized way of thinking and doing and thinking about education is slowly but surely, I believe, changing.
Hmm.
And so I think that um, unschooling is the future. So I want you to speak to that. Do you believe that this is where education is going or
Now,
should go?
I'm so passionate about unschooling. I think everybody should be an unschooler, even grown-ups. Uh,
I mean,
um,
technically, we kind of are because if
yes,
we
yeah.
get not upset, but if we get into a place in our lives where we are not satisfied with what we're doing, what do? We create a plan and we do the research and then we pursue it or we figure out how we can pursue it to get out of what we're currently doing. So,
I mean, that's it. I believe that every child should have that right to find their passion. As children,
hmm
I'm gonna tell you a story real quick. I did not have a passion when I graduated from high school.
hmm
I just because I was smart, I took all these honors classes and all this and that to turn around and go to college and take the same classes again, but just in college.
okay,
I
really.
was bored out of my mind. And so I didn't have a passion. I didn't
hmm
even like half the classes I took in high school or in college.
hmm
I didn't like them at all. And so I took them. I got good grades in them, but I didn't, it was like, I don't like it. So when I got out of the first college I went to, I found something else that I wanted to do. So I went back to college to do that. Didn't like that. So I've been back and forth to college 5 times.
hmm
I never found that one thing that was like, I could do this for the rest of my life and be happy.
hmm
I didn't want that for my child, Kendra.
hmm
I really, when we started homeschooling, I had to really sit and think, especially when we started unschooling. I haven't found my passion. I have a passion now, which is doing what I'm doing now, is
hmm
talking to people about us. That's my passion. But I'm almost 50
hmm
and I hadn't found a passion. I'm very passionate about being a wife, a mother, the roles that, was given to me by God, but a passion for myself, this is it. But I'm 50, almost 50 years old. Just think if I would have found a passion at 12 or 13 or 18 even or
hmm
20 or 20,
Yeah.
there's no age limit to when you can find your passions. But if I would have found it earlier, like when Zoe found her passion at 12, from 12 to the time she's 18, which is now, that child has developed, it is amazing levels and she's not even done. So to be able to have a passion like that at such a young age and to be able to freely pursue it the way you want to, if we can have all kids do that, whether it be in sports, whether it be in the arts, whether they want to be a scientist, if they want to be a pilot, if they want to be a person who does film,
Mhm.
who makes who's a I mean, there's all these wonderful things that kids probably want to pursue, but they can't because they're stuck learning what society told them they have to learn in order to get to this college or to the next thing in life.
And if they don't meet what society or what the public school says they should look like and have achieved academically, then it's kind of like, oh, there's no like, what do you do with that? You're either left behind, so to speak. Your esteem is in the toilet. uh,
Hmm.
and it sets the course, potentially the trajectory for the rest of your life.
You're absolutely correct. You
Yeah.
are. My daughter wanted to be an artist, like I said, but I didn't want her to be because
Mhm,
you can't make money doing that.
mhm.
That that's not something you can do. And I can't believe I was like that. But now looking back at it, I was one of those people. Like, you have to do this in order to be successful. You can't do that. Now, how
Mhm,
does that sound? Me telling her, knowing how she is now,
mhm,
telling her back then, I just want to kick myself because she could have been doing it. This brings her joy.
mhm.
My daughter is happy to get up and start her work that she has to do, that she's contracted to do, but she's happy doing it. I was trying to mold her into what society said is a success.
Mhm.
You have to define what a success is. I had the confidence in her to do that. I supported her. That's another thing that, and I trusted her. We haven't talked about trusting your kids and truly supporting your kids in their passion. That made Zoe so confident. She tells people that when she's interviewed, that I would not be here today if it were not for my mother and my father supporting me. Support is the key. I'm very proud of her for taking the lead in her own journey.
Well, Tyra, we have had a wonderful conversation. I am going to put Zoe's information and your information in the description and link so that people can find out more from you, because you also do consulting, right, with
Yes, I do.
unschooling.
hmm
Hmm.
I was doing classes like back in March, but I'll probably end up doing more classes in August, possibly at the end of July. But I also want to say something else, Kendra.
Okay.
Going back to unschooling being the future,
Hmm.
because my daughter is a lifelong learner and she has the ability to learn things on her own without, that type of thinking, she can be a part of any future
Mm.
because the way technology changes, the way different things change, if something new happens to come out and she needs to learn it for something, she will learn it on her own because she's used to doing that.
Right. Yes.
So if that is what the future holds for education for our kids, our future is going to be amazing.
Well, and
But
that's what we want, is for our kids to be self motivated and to be self starters and self learners. So
yeah.
I have enjoyed talking to you. I always enjoy talking to you. I'm definitely going to have you to do some more discussions on game schooling.
Oh, that's my thing.
Yes, and
Oh, I love game
deschooling.
schooling.
Yes. So I'm gonna have you back, and I enjoyed.
I enjoyed it too. Thank you, Kendra. I enjoy talking about unschooling. It's one of my passions. So I thank you for having this and letting other people know about unschooling, especially other people that look like me.
Yes, because you know what, we talked about this, that I feel like this is one of the reasons why I wanted us to be on camera today. And also why I feel like this is important is because statistics are showing that, Black homeschoolers in particular are the fastest growing population among homeschoolers. And we need to be able to see people that look like us, because that are doing some of the things that we either aspire to, or can tell us about things we haven't thought of. Because we do need to break out of, this mindset that we have to do things one way. And because oftentimes, even though we're the fastest growing demographic of homeschoolers, we're often spread out across the nation. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know someone who decides they want to homeschool may not see anyone who or know anyone that's doing that. And there is
Mm-hmm.
something about seeing someone that looks like you doing what you aspire to that is just so encouraging and helpful. So I'm excited about this video, and I'm glad that we were able to chat. Don't forget to click like and subscribe to be notified of future videos. Also, don't forget to check out my website, www.aheartforhomeschool.com.